Have you ever worked with gilding flakes? This video looks at how we can gild our stamped images. Welcome to Bonnie Carolee Makes Cards. Silhouette stamps are perfect for this technique. I am working with Simon Says Stamp Tropical Silhouettes to make two fun summertime cards. So let's get started. For this technique, you will need a slow drying glue. I'm working with one called gliding glue. And you need your gilding flakes. I really like those from Cosmic Shimmer. They have a beautiful selection of combinations of metallics. I'm going to be working with Rainbow Sherbert and Persian Dawn. To get ready, I have Neenah Classic Crest 110 pound cardstock in my MISTI, and I put my glue on some wax paper. I'm using an old acrylic paintbrush to apply the glue directly to my stamp. I quickly apply the glue and then stamp the image. I go ahead and stamp two more leaves. This is a water-based glue. Not that you can leave the glue on your stamps for a long period of time, but you do have enough time to stamp 3 or 4 images before it needs to be washed off. The stamps are cleaned in warm, soapy water. I use a soft nail brush to get the glue out of the crevices. I wouldn't advise stamping too many images at once. You don't want to have any of the glue residue left on them. So here's the thing, gilding flakes can be a little bit messy and you have to be careful. No fans turned on and no windows open if there's a breeze. Before the flakes are applied, the stamped images need to be completely dry, and that only takes a few minutes. I'm using the same brush that I used to apply the glue. I made sure that it was completely cleaned off and dry before using it. The acrylic brush is fairly stiff, so it's perfect for applying the gilding flakes. After tapping off the excess, I use an old stencil brush just to remove the rest of the residue. I go ahead and gild the images for both of the cards. Why make a mess twice? In all honesty, it wasn't that bad, but I was being careful. I worked on some paper towels so that I could gather the flakes up and put them back in the pot when I was done. I gilded 2 full sets of the images, one for each slimline card. For the card in the tropical sunrise colors, half of the images were gilded with Rainbow Sherbert. That is the mixture I'm working with now, and it is a combination of golds and silvers and reds. It is just gorgeous. The remaining images are gilded with Persian Dawn. Again, this is a mixture of metallics that includes silvers and golds and orange. These mixes really are amazing. Before carrying on, I use a microfiber cloth to pick up any of the stray flakes. This works well. I don't know if you've noticed, but yes, my fingernails are also gilded. Over the course of the day, with all the hand washing, it did wear off. Before the die cutting, all of the images are given one last final good burnishing with the stencil brush. I have learned the hard way not to throw caution to the wind. Taking the extra step of using a little bit of washi tape to hold those dies in place really saves a lot of work. There's nothing worse than losing alignment and having to start again. I have to say that I was pretty amazed at how much detail from the stamping is captured with this technique. The dies were used to cut white foam and black foam. white for the tropical sunrise card, and black for the blue purple card. When die cutting foam, I only run it through once. It will cut through the thickness just fine, and you don't want that foam to stretch out. I always store my dies on magnetic sheets. They slip in easily behind the coordinating stamp set in the storage pocket. Magnetic storage sheets are expensive though, and somewhere along the line I discovered magnetic vent covers. Comparatively speaking, these are very inexpensive and can be easily cut down to the sizes that you need with a paper cutter. With the elements all finished up and ready to go, I start working on Bristol smooth cardstock, creating my ink blended backgrounds. For this card, I'm working with Distress Oxide inks, Crackling Campfire, Picked Raspberry, and Fossilized Amber. The first thing that I do when I'm ink blending is map out the color design. Once the colors are in place, then I work back and forth, extending the colors one into the other until I get a nice smooth blend. Distress inks stay quite wet for a while. I use a piece of protective paper so that as I'm inking, I'm not leaving any fingerprints. For me, it takes several applications of ink to get a nice blend. As I'm working, I oftentimes will hold the card up for a different view. This helps me to see where I need to do a bit more blending. When I'm working on cards that have lots of elements, I take quite a bit of time to get things arranged and rearranged and rearranged. The sentiment that I'm using for this card is fairly large, so I need to make sure that I've got lots of room for it. Once everything is arranged the way I like it, I'm ready to commit to where I'm going to place the sentiment. As I lift the elements off, I try to keep them grouped so that they can go back the same way. This panel had been die cut with Pink Fresh Studios slim stitched rectangles. This is the second largest die. Because distress inks can take quite a while to dry, it is important to test first. I always put just a little bit of powder on the corner and make sure that it will knock off completely before I proceed with embossing. The sentiment has been embossed 2 times. This creates a nice, smooth, puffy appearance. The panel is mounted on black sheet foam. This is something that I frequently do. Not only does it add a little bit of dimension to the card, it also makes the card sturdy. The card base for this card measures 3 3/4 inches by 8 3/4 inches. Black cardstock was die cut with the largest die in Pink Fresh Studio slim stitched rectangle dies. After it is adhered to the card base, the foam-backed, ink-blended panel is attached. Even though I had taken the time to pull the elements off the card in groups, I still ended up doing some rearranging. I find it challenging working with lots of elements and trying to get them to work together in a unified manner. After a fair amount of fussing, I'm finally happy with the arrangement and ready to adhere them to the card. The card is finished off with lots of gold confetti. And as part of my standard practice, I finish up with Nouveau Crystal Drops Morning Dew. I just can't resist. The ink blended background for the second card was done with faded jeans, chipped sapphire, and seedless preserves. I just used one of the gilding flake combinations for all of the elements for this card, Persian Dawn. The sentiment was embossed with a combination of both silver fading to gold embossing powder. Gilding stamped images results in an exotic look and is a perfect fit with Simon Says Stamps tropical silhouettes. I love the shine, the texture, and the detail of the stamping that is retained using this technique. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and as always, I appreciate your visit.